We are in Kenosha, Wisconsin. We record the show, we record the podcast, and we do our community service in and around the Kenosha, Wisconsin area. So we thought we'd address what happened a couple of weeks ago because I literally am right here. The studio is right downtown Kenosha. Smoke was in the air, the sirens, the screams, the helicopters, the rioters. The next day, the news. The next day, the news. The next day, the news. More rioting and curfews, and lives destroyed. People who know me know that I rant a lot. I'm free with my opinion. I spout vitriol a lot, but now is the time for healing, and the entire organization is 100% behind the victims of systemic injustice in this country. I don't like the labels. I don't like the appearance of an organized mob or movement or the wag the dog effect that the media has. So I try not to use any of those labels, but the fact is that I have seen systemic police racism in my career as a person who spent his life on the road, ever since I came to urban areas. It's easy to not understand what's going on when you don't know any minorities and when you come from the country like I did. The first 20 years of my life, I never met a Mexican. Didn't know until I was 20. We had one black guy in our town, and that's just the way it was. He was that white in the country in America. So if you are from a very rural area, you might not know what really goes on, and you might not have any empathy for anybody on either side. I've lived in situations where I've seen that racism from Chicago to the south of the country, and here in suburban, really, this is urban. Kenosha is really a big suburb of Chicago, but it's just big enough to be its own little city here. And I've seen the police take it out on people who have no voice, from here to there, but I've never been in an area where one of these police shootings of an unarmed black person caused actual riots, like we were this time. It was literally right around us, and it was very surreal to be involved in. And I have to say that there are some observations from being close to the inside that I'd like to share. When you're in the country watching on TV, it seems like the whole town's burning, and it seems like you might have a bigger disaster than you actually do. But when you're in it, you get to know that the whole town didn't burn. Large parts of some neighborhoods burned, and public buildings were targeted. But I have a feeling from my time in this area that some of the businesses that were affected were not necessarily black-friendly businesses. Right? This is a part of town where the sons and daughters of Italian immigrants and German immigrants and Polish immigrants remember a time when there weren't very many minorities in a place like Kenosha either that weren't them, white European immigrants. And the influx of blacks and Mexicans in latter years caused bitterness to the older generation, who may have been, somewhat racist on their own before they even came here, but ended up as successful immigrants being defiant of the welfare state and those who appeared to be taking advantage of it and ruining their neighborhoods as they saw it. So you have, within the community, you have racism, which has been long seated and has grown to full strength in a time when integration is now the norm in the part of town that we're talking about. So what you have is a customer base of minorities and struggling business owners who aren't minorities, who are white and second and third generation business owners of a hardware store or a mattress store or a locksmith or a tailor, or any kind of small business. Those people, whether they know it or not, may have in fact been seeding this sort of revenge upon their own businesses over the years with their implicit or illicit racism. All right? I know from personal experience entering some of these stores that the owners of the stores treat me differently than they treat the black guy that came in behind me. Some of them are overtly racist, some of them not so much. But the people who live and have to patronize those stores, when you go to the dollar store, when you go to the bodega, when you go down to get your key from the hardware store, you have to use those stores. They're there in your neighborhood, and to go in there constantly and be treated poorly because you're not white might rub you the wrong way after a lot of years. And it's not an excuse. It's just me telling it like it is. All right, some people are going to be given to violence, and when they get pushed over a certain line, that explodes on the street, and we see that across the nation now because people are sick of getting shot by the police for no reason. And those people are by and large peaceful protesters. They are not a violent mob of looters. But the fact is that when you push a population past that point, a certain number of them are going to act out in this way, and it's no different on the other side. Some of those people overreacted in terms of their willingness to come to Kenosha from other places, other states even, because we are on the border, and lend a hand to the police who are overwhelmed by rioting in the wake of their own actions. All right, so now you have vigilantes and wannabe cops and folks who aren't even involved in what went down here, coming from other places just to say, hey, you know what, this is wrong, this looting is bad, this violence is wrong. Again, which is not wrong, and that's right, that violence is bad, but it doesn't help to have untrained personnel who really, are coming here just to act out their Call of Duty fantasies in real life. When you're a 17-year-old kid grabbing an automatic weapon and running into a mob that's not even your neighborhood, you're not protecting your house, you're not protecting your mom, you're not protecting your sister from getting raped, you're not protecting your office furniture store from getting burned down even. You're not doing anything but causing trouble. And now the trouble happened, half the people are coming to his rescue, and half the people are on the other side, and we got conspiracy theories, and we got videos, and we got people spinning the videos different ways. And it all comes down to one thing. What the fuck was he doing here? All right, Kyle Rittenhouse. Shittenhouse. I bet he prays to God that this is all going to come out nice for him, right? Because he's a God-fearing citizen who thought it'd be a smart idea to grab a weapon and go to a different town and offer to help the police. Whatever happened, right? There's people who say that that's not what happened, and he was acting in self-defense. The fact was he should have been at home, not in Kenosha with a gun. All right? Now, in the aftermath of the looting and the burning and the pillaging and the violence, there was input from our fabulous president, Agent Orange, who he insisted that Wisconsin deploy the National Guard, and they did. The National Guard showed up, and they positioned themselves around some places. They didn't position themselves around the businesses next to the ones that were already burned to make sure that those businesses didn't get burned. They positioned themselves around the high school where Trump was going to fucking visit. That's where they protected. And they protected the civil, the courthouse and stuff, which didn't have people in it. I don't know what they thought was going to happen to the giant marble building after, it had already been barricaded and blocked up. People spray painted on it. That was pretty funny, you got to say. There was some clever shit on there. And if you look, you can probably see it. They washed that off right away. They had funds for that. They'd get downtown and wash off the graffiti that said, they kill us because they're afraid of us. They washed that shit off right away. Some of the other stuff that's needed in town doesn't get handled like that. But the National Guard, to get back to my point, they had a minimal presence here. They didn't stop anything from happening. They didn't save the city. Trump asserted that there would be no Kenosha if it wasn't for the National Guard and him. That's ridiculous. I was here. The National Guard showed up when it was all over, and they protected the place that fat-ass, orange-faced liar, the embarrasser-in-chief, came to visit. That's what they protected. So anybody who believes that crap is true is full of shit, all right? You're fooling yourself. The National Guard did not protect Kenosha from burning. I'm glad they're there. It's nothing against the National Guard. They probably should have been deployed. But for him to pretend that he saved the city with that is flat wrong. All right. The other thing that happened was the good and true leaders of the black community who want to protest this peacefully and organize marches and organize sit-ins and organize, any manner of peaceful protest, they end up making it a church service. All right, I had to sit on the down the street from some of these sit-ins, which effectively blocked traffic, got some attention, got them on the news, did all the right things, but then all of a sudden it becomes a church service. All right, first of all, not every person affected is a Christian. Not every black person affected is a Christian. There's plenty of black atheists out there who have to keep their mouths shut when they're in the middle of that scene because they don't want to become ostracized either. But the black leaders of the community tend to turn right away to the pastors, who will come out and hold a rally on the streets where they pray to God and insist that God will see them through this, and speaking in tongues even, and getting really, really into the fact that we need to bring God back into this equation. When I'm counting to myself since 1490s, when white European scumbags opened up the passageway to the New World and effectively began the slave trade. Since that time, Almighty God has had 500 years or more, do the math, to help the black man in the New World, and he hasn't done fucking shit. Why do these people go to God? God is not going to come down and stop a bullet. God has shown effectively that he is not going to stop a police officer from choking out a black man to death. God is never going to do that. When will the leaders of the black community and the Mexican community and the Hispanic community and the white community, for that matter, start using human solutions to solve their human problems? God didn't shoot that black dude in the back, and God didn't loot and riot afterwards, and God didn't stop any of it from happening either. All right? Caesar Octavius knew 2,000 years ago when he said that clearly the gods do not exist, for they neither show themselves nor provide us with any redress to our petitions. Okay? God helps those who help themselves. A tacit admission that God does not exist. So, Kenosha's going to be all right. It was inspiring to see the messages on the plywood when people came out after the plywood went up. And by the way, if there is a conspiracy, it's the plywood sellers. Those are the fuckers who are starting this. If you ask me, those are the guys who are benefiting. You know, they had it right out front on the street. You know, the next day you go down to Menards and they had it piled up on the street, very ready for people to just pull their trucks up and get the plywood. So that's where it's at, plywood, man. But anyway, they painted beautiful, signs of hope, inspiration, love, and yes, you got it, God, more God. You know, so. That's what's going on in Kenosha. I'm calling out to atheists who might be in a position to use that plywood to put up an atheist message. No religion, no hate. N-O. No religion, no hate. K-N-O-W. See? It's the same thing, right? You can turn all those stupid phrases they have around. But the fact is that God is the last thing we need in Kenosha. We need police accountability. We need love and respect and understanding. And we need science. And we need to get back to our lives. Because I can tell you, when I go down the neighborhood right here and I talk to anybody on the street, anybody, black, white, Hispanic, anybody, it's like talking to a friend. It's like talking to a neighbor. You don't meet an enemy who's bent on burning a building. You don't meet a guy who's so mad at white America for a police shooting that they don't like you. No, you meet a neighbor. You meet a friend. You meet a sympathetic person who's looking in the air at the smoke and going through the same shit you're going through and worrying about their kids. So, Kenosha's going to be all right, but the problem with the country is not left-wing conspiracy to ruin the economy with a false protest movement and organized looting. And, like they're all coming from a bus somewhere to go to that. Now, and today's looting will be in Dayton, Ohio. Everybody, get on the bus. We're going to Dayton and get ready. Someone's going to get shot and we're going to burn. Yeah. No, it's idiocy. People are sick and tired of getting shot for nothing. Colored people, black people, homeless people, transgender people, white people who are powerless, women and children. They get abused by people of authority in America. No bullshit. And unfortunately, we had to live through it here in Kenosha. And those are my observations from on the ground here. Be safe, everybody, and forget about God. He's not going to help you. He's not.